All right, for more on this and what is happening, we want to bring in Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, and an Iraq War veteran, a member of the House Rules Committee and Appropriations Committee. Guy, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
How do you too, John? You know, I think that Joe Biden really wanted to declare an emergency, because if COVID taught the Democrat Party one thing, it's that they can use emergencies to advance their agenda. I think the only thing that's stopping Joe Biden from declaring an emergency are the atrocious poll numbers. The Democrats have to know that come this fall, they're going to take a huge loss in both the House and the Senate. If they were to declare an emergency on the environment and further drive up the cost of energy for working American families, they would lose by even larger margins. So I think that it isn't Joe Biden being reasonable that's saving us from him declaring a climate emergency and having a bunch of rules and regulations promulgated. It's really the reality that they're facing losses heading into this fall election.
Yeah, nothing is going the way they want it to go right now, or maybe it is. I don't know. That's an open question right now. But I also want to talk to you, Congressman, about the National Defense Authorization Act. Some House Republicans have proposed a number of amendments here, and some of them would protect service members from vaccine mandates. And we see this, a lot of military members leaving the armed forces right now because they're required to get vaccinated. Do all of your Republican colleagues support ending the vaccine mandate for the military if it's attached to the NDAA?
Well, the hard part is a lot of members like myself support the National Defense Authorization Act because it does, of course, call for funding in the military and the appropriations bill that goes through it. However, this vaccine mandate is really a nonviolent purge of the United States military. And I say it's a nonviolent purge because the Democrats and the woke liberals that have taken over the military are using it to get conservatives, and diehard conservatives at that, to leave military service. And at the end of the day, it doesn't make any scientific sense. Somebody that's in his or her late teens, early 20s, which is the majority of the U.S. military, they're the least likely to pass away from COVID or succumb to COVID. This is being done to virtue signal and to push out conservative members of the military. And if I could just say something about the kind of discharge, we were able to say no dishonorable discharge, but as a former military lawyer, I can tell you there's 5 different kinds of discharges from the U.S. military if you go to an administrative separation board. There's very little difference between a dishonorable discharge and a bad conduct discharge, for example. And so I don't think we did enough to prevent that. It should be an honorable discharge and nothing less than an honorable discharge if the military is removing members who refuse to get vaccinated.
And, you know, with so many recruitment issues, obviously this could be at the heart of, you know, this as well. So important to watch that. Guy, we want to also ask you about yesterday's House vote on same-sex marriage. As you know, 47 Republicans joining Democrats to support this bill, which would repeal the Defense of Marriage Act. What do you make of that bipartisan support there and the fact it actually came to the vote?
Well, this is just like AOC's fake arrest. It's political theater. Nancy Pelosi knows this bill is never going to run in the Senate. It's never going to pass in the Senate. Also, there's no threat here whatsoever. This is still the law of the land. So this is political theater. And I stood with the majority of Republicans in voting no, not because of the underlying issue, but because the fact that Democrats are wasting time on an imaginary problem. That's a bill that's never going to get run in the Senate, by the way. And the Democrats are not focused on what's hurting everyday citizens. For example, inflation at over 9%, gas prices at $5 a gallon, chaos at the southern border, a war in Europe. We've got so many real issues. Oh, crime that is surging. We have real issues that are hurting real everyday Americans. The Democrats want to do nothing but engage in political theater, and I absolutely refuse to take part in that. That's why I voted no. That's why most of my colleagues voted no. As for the ones that voted with the Democrats, they're going to have to answer for themselves. But it's time that we stop engaging in theatrics, and it's time we do what we were sent here to do and watch out for the American people and their jobs and their wallets. We're not doing that.
Your lips to God's ears, Congressman. We also want to ask you about Dr. Fauci and his retirement plans, whatever they may be. He made some comments to Politico recently about that. Now he's kind of trying to walk it back a bit. Here he is.
Well, no, I'm not going to retire. I may step down from my current position at some time. And one of the reporters had asked me, and the question originated was, if Donald Trump is the next president, would you still work for him in your capacity? And I said a very innocent but true thing. I said, whether it's Donald Trump or it's Joe Biden's second term, I don't intend to be in my current position in January of 2025.
Hey Siri, what's hubris? I mean, every time this guy talks, Congressman, is it really up to him? I guess it is. He can retire when he wants to, but the way he talks about his position in the government, he's the highest paid government official, he's an unelected bureaucrat, and he hasn't done anything that's been successful, at least not in the last 2 years. So why is it really his decision on whether he gets to keep his job or not?
Well, he should really serve at the pleasure of the president. And one thing that we have to do when we retake the House is we need to make sure we rein in these unelected career bureaucrats who, by the way, have zero accountability to the people. Congress should be making these decisions because every 2 years in the House, we have to be accountable to the voters. People like Anthony Fauci and these other bureaucrats that have way too much power don't have that kind of accountability. Now, as for whether whether Fauci is going to retire if Biden loses to President Trump in 2024, I don't even think we get there, because I can tell you this. Fauci will wish that he retired before we take the House next year. There's going to be extensive oversight investigation. We're going to try to expose all his pecuniary interests that he had tied up in this vaccine. We're going to expose the fact that he took U.S. dollars, despite an Obama administration declaration not to do this, but took that money and sent it to the Wuhan Institute of Virology via EcoHealth Alliance to do gain-of-function research, which ultimately, I believe, led to the COVID pandemic. Also, we're going to show that he parroted Chinese Communist Party talking points, lied to Congress and the administration in the early days of this, saying this disease spread through animal contact, not human to human, despite the fact that the Taiwanese in late December had proven that wasn't the case. But Fauci still refused to do that. And then let's not forget, he totally backpedaled and threw cold water on the lab leak theory, which it seems like there's more than sufficient evidence in a court of law to prove that this originated in the Wuhan Institute of Virology laboratory, not through this conspiracy theory of a bat traveling to a wet market 1,000 miles, infecting nobody along the way, and just having to be released in the same city a block away from the Virology Institute, where, by the way, they were studying zoonotic bat-borne diseases. And that lab was being run by no other than the general for the PLA, who's in charge of biological weapons.
Obviously, there'll be a lot.
It's compelling.
There'll be a lot of investigations, a lot of things that, are going to change after the midterms here, and also involving, whether or not people can buy certain stocks and who and what they are connected to. Paul Pelosi guy had that timely stock purchase of Nvidia. It's made huge headlines because it's not the first time he has done this. Last June, he cashed in $5.3 million after buying 4,000 shares of Alphabet. That is Google's parent company. Now, the week before the House Judiciary Committee votes on reining in big tech, here we have this, and the optics are not good. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, of course, her office came out with a response to this, saying she does not own any stocks, but clearly they've been enjoying the high life over in Italy. What would you like to see happen when it comes to stock trading and spouses here?
Yes. Well, first off, if this were a Republican couple, the Congress member would be investigated by the ethics committee, and the spouse would be facing insider trading charges. But because they're part of the Democratic Party, we have this two-tier justice system, and there will be zero accountability for Pelosi. Now, in terms of individual members selling individual stocks, we should not be allowed to do that, and nor should the spouse be allowed to do that. I can tell you I have all of my investments in the TSP, different TSP accounts, and in the S&P 500, and I do that because I don't want to have a conflict of interest. Other members should do that. And I think that it's absolutely unacceptable that you have members picking individual stocks, beating the market when other people don't have the ability to have this kind of information. And not all members have this kind of information. Remember, Pelosi is making the vast majority of the decisions that her party is putting forward on the House floor. That leadership office controls a lot. And she is, if you look at the returns that she and her husband have had, they're uncanny. So I think that there should be a ban on individual members of Congress and their spouses from trading individual stocks. It should be limited to the thrift savings plan, just like it is for members of the military. They have all the TSP options. And it should be limited to index funds, and that's it. No individual stock picks. And Bianca, thanks for calling me Guy. John, I got to get you to call me Guy at some point. Enough of this congressman talk.
I was joking around with Bianca in the commercial break. These are the ground rules. We have Guy on our show. Don't call him Congressman, even though I did, just by force of habit. Call him Guy, and that's the rules. But
sometimes we're formal
John.
here, but we know, Guy, you're one of the good ones. We can just go first name basis
Bianca.
here. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for your insight. We certainly appreciate your time on all these major issues that are really affecting so many Americans today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.